Hello viewers, Super GT here. Now we're going to go into the good old V8 Supercars League. It's been a while since I've been on leagues. I haven't really touched it too much, but here I am. I'm in the pinnacle division. So that means I'm one of the best players in the world. Yeah, true facts only on this channel. So here we are at Road America. An interesting little circuit, this one, because this isn't the full configuration. One of the short ones. These two guys having a minor disagreement to begin with. So starting 6th place on the grid. Going to get around this guy around the outside, am I? Nope, he's going to punt that guy wide. And I'm going to get through to 3rd. Nope, just back down to 4th again. So then into the 2nd corner, 4th place. I'm in the Ford Falcon. This is my first race in this league, so I'm not really sure which is the best car. But from what I can remember, the Ford Falcon's always good in a straight line. So we'll see how it goes. Because I mean, this configuration, you want straight line speed. It's essentially 2 long straights with 2 corners on the end of them. So then, into turn 3, up into 3rd place, and the top 2 just around the corner there. Let's see if we can start catching up with those 2. We definitely will now, because we can see that they just made contact up ahead. So that's the kind of thing we're going to be looking out for as we go over the crest to begin lap number 2. So leagues are a good feature in the game. At least there's some sort of matchmaking, and it does try to separate you into somewhat distinct levels of skill. Of course, it isn't always perfect, but the racing I experience in leagues is typically better than it is in hoppers, although not always. You know, you still get your odd madman who will just go mental. So then coming down the back straight, I'm just measuring how quickly am I gaining on these guys, or are they getting away from me? Well, the truth is they're getting away from me. So they, I believe, have the better straight line speed. Though they're going in really narrow, you can really take a wide line going in. The track goes really wide as you go into that corner. So they're clearly not making the most of that. So running out the final corner, both of them making mistakes through the final turn. And once again, I'm going to start putting onto the back of them and still have 4th place in tow. So it's a 4-way battle here, just about. Let's cross the line to begin the 3rd lap. So let's see how this goes, because I'm right on their tail now. Seems like I'm fairly good through the corners. And they're going side by side, which obviously isn't a good place to be. Suboptimal going through there side by side. So he loses out. I'm up into 2nd and through turn 2. Go for that late apex and then powering out to the outside. You've got to use a bit of that curve on the outside if you really want to maximise it. And then this is where you can see I just began to pull onto the back of him. So I had initially a good set of acceleration out of that corner, but then just as we get further away, even with the slipstream, he's just pulling away still. So gaining a good 50 feet at least. I'm going to move more to the left, which invites this guy to the inside, but then I can take a more narrow line, or more open line, and through into the lead. That is the Moses effect in operation. So straight up into the lead. So this one's going quite weirdly, because I shouldn't really be winning it. These guys are just making far too many mistakes, and I'm kind of just not making mistakes in this. Proving to be the difference, really, because I think they should be faster. They have the fastest speed in a straight line. So if all they've got to do really is just get their cars around the corner just safely, and then make the most of their speed on the straight. And looking behind, they've already messed each other up. So that is just simply going to hand me this race, I think, unless I make some really stupid mistake. But then at the end, I'm going to skip here to the final couple of corners. You can see how wide you go, a little bit wide of the apex, about 10 metres away, but still carrying enough speed through that corner. So that was quite an easy win, it turned out. I shouldn't have really won it.
Oh yeah!
I should not really have won that, because they had the better cars, but we'll see how it goes around Hockenheim. From pole position, so of course setting that fastest lap is important in these leagues. It does give you a good grid slot for the next race. So getting a good clean lap somewhere within the race is something you might want to consider, because it can give you a real good start for the next race. Which, well, I mean, sometimes in these leagues, especially when they're really competitive and you're starting mid-grid constantly, sometimes it's a good idea just to back right out to the back and just set a good clean lap. Kind of sacrifice a race and go, right, okay, we can set a clean lap and go for the next one instead, and start at the front for the next one instead. Into the hairpin. Hockenheim this time around. Through there beautifully. In second gear, but actually going back down to first, I think I was a little bit too high a gear. But the gearing is really important in these V8 Supercars because they really do wheel spin a lot. And if you're driving without traction control, which I am here, these cars will really teach you how to be patient on the throttle. They really will. You see, they're just a bit of a kick for the rear end, but keeping it mostly in check. So that race kind of went the same way as the first one. Running away with it at the end, but then we come up to the most dangerous corner in the game, in my opinion, Catalunya National Turn 1. So will this prove to be my undoing? We're about to find out as we go down, hurtling down the hill into the first corner. Big braking zone into this hairpin. I'm up the inside, and I haven't been mullered in the rear end, which is always good to know. And just resuming first place as we then head up the hill, so plenty of practice around this circuit from the recent Rivals event. And then, yes, you guessed it, at the end, quite a comfortable victory. And Indianapolis, yeah, comfortable victory. And then Watkins Glen, yeah, that's right, first place. The money was just rolling in like that, you know. Look at this, 5 out of 5. I'm basically the best player in the world. It's actually a true fact. So I thought I'd change the car and go for the Nissan around Prague, the short circuit this time. So not starting on pole position this time around. Third place on the grid. So this little Ford's going to try to hammer his way through the centre, up into second, almost into the back of first place, although just backing out in time. FRF Kiko. This is maybe something about the first 5 races I just did. There weren't really any big names, so sorry if you were in one of those races. I've just totally dissed you. But yeah, there were no big recognisable names. And, you know, the 3 letters in the front of the names which give you about 3 seconds per lap. There was none of that. So I was basically beating no one. And again, if you were in these races, you are no one. Sorry. Coming to the final corner here at Prague, short lap. Although a dangerous lap, I must say. This circuit is a highly volatile one. Many opportunities to crash, especially for that final chicane, of course. Down the main straight, massive overspeed compared to Kiko, straight through into first place. But we saw in that first lap, he was he drove well, and he had. I know he's a good driver, so he's got good consistency. So this race isn't over yet. And of course, with a short configuration, people are going into the pits as well. And we're going to experience back markers, our favourite thing in Forza Motorsport. So then coming into the tunnel, under the archway, and through this section. This is a really tricky section. Just grazing the wall, but you know, no damage. That's kind of fine. It can actually help sometimes just to bounce off that wall a tiny bit and kind of steady your car if you hit it at the right kind of angle. And putting out the final corner, let's see what that gap is. Just over 100 feet. You see he's keeping in touch, and it might look like that gap is getting quite big already, but if I make one mistake, if one back marker decides, oh, that's Super GT, I'm gonna ram him off, get in a video, you know, if that happens, which I'd say there's a 50-50 chance, I could just flip a coin and it could just happen either way, then he's going to overtake me. It's as simple as that. I'm going to lose well over a couple of seconds for being smashed off for Glory Hunter. So still got to watch out. Still have to be really careful. So you got to really manage the race a bit. Sometimes you can just go flying up the inside. Oh, there's a bit of an accident here. So you see there, I was very careful. Just slow down. Just make sure I get through, rather than just go hammering through and hoping for the best. So sometimes you just really got to manage that. So I have lost out a tiny bit there, but it's better to lose out maybe half a second than risk crashing and losing 10 seconds and getting damage and then losing another 30 seconds in the pit lane. So there's these risk versus reward ideologies coming into the race. I mean, it's a key aspect of motorsport. You can push entirely for every corner, every race, but then you do risk having more accidents if you do that. There's no point in pushing if you're miles out in the lead. So you do have to be clever about what you're doing, which isn't very common, it must be said, in Forza. But it depends on the racing you get, I suppose. Sometimes I don't really care if it's that bad, because sometimes when you get out to the front with some other clean drivers, it's fine. And just dodging another guy there who decided to kind of park it in the centre, but just getting through past him. But as I was saying, sometimes when you just get in a good race with a few other people, sometimes there's only like 6 people in a lobby, but if 3 of them are good and you can have a good race, then it doesn't really matter too much, because you're only really ever going to be racing a few people at one moment. So having only 6 people in the lobby doesn't really matter too much, as long as the racing is good. That's the main thing. So this race is going quite well, learning to be fairly consistent so far. Just dipping 2 wheels across there kind of helps you round as you lift halfway through that corner and wait for that late apex to power out onto the bridge. And then this corner here, you're kind of just turning in at the start of the shadow, just before the archway. You can see they're just on the shadow and it just hooks you in nicely. And then just lifting off as you have to through this section. I think that corner there, that really epitomises risk versus reward, because if you really want to risk going for a clean fast lap, you really are putting yourself at risk, because those barriers will reach out and punch you in the face if you're not careful. I've had that happen many times. Yeah, sometimes the hitbox as well. I swear that the hitbox isn't quite right on those barriers. Sometimes I swear that I didn't really hit it, but the game decides that I did hit it, or that's just me trying to make up excuses. I do have quite a big book here of racing driver excuses, as I've been in the game for quite a long time now. I've heard them all and tried to use them all as well. But then here we are then, on the back bridge for the 6th time. One more time to go after this. The gap is getting slightly bigger. I think he made a mistake on the previous lap, but still he remains fairly close. And again, if I decide to, or if someone else decides to punt me, then I'm definitely going to lose that first place, go down to 2nd. So is this guy going to be the one to do it? We're about to find out. As you go into the first corner, you've got to make the decision. Am I going to go past him? It's a dodgy decision sometimes to make, because you can go past someone on a straight going into the corner, but then there's a big chance they'll just punt you off at the corner. So sometimes it's better to overtake them coming out of the corner, because a lot of people take a really bad line going in. You can overtake them on the way out instead. Fortunately for me this time, this guy decided to be quite nice, or just, I don't know, he was incompetent and he couldn't ram me despite trying. I don't know. But yeah, I'm still alive at this point, which is good to know. Then we've got a couple of corners left, and you see I'm kind of going a little bit too fast. So I'm just going to back right off. I know I've got the gap. I've got over 1,000 feet now. Kiko, I think, made a couple of mistakes. That's kind of what happens when you make a big gap. The other guy decides, well, okay, to win, I'm just going to have to push like crazy. I'm going to have to risk more. And then, unfortunately for him, it rewarded him with some crashes or mistakes. So there are the results of that one. So quite a comfortable win. So we're going to turn our attention to the Nürburgring. Now a couple of bigger names, so more 3-letter people, acronyms, have got themselves into the lobby. So 6 wins so far. Let's see if we can make it 7 at the Grand Prix circuit of the Nürburgring. So starting 2nd, but immediately into 1st place. Now this should really set me up well. You can see from pretty much all of these races so far, I've controlled the race from the front. Once you can get into the front, you've got all the clean air. You don't have to worry about really like avoiding anyone or braking earlier to offset the gap in front or anything like that. So now I have the lead, I have the track position. If I just put my car in the right places at the right time, I should be able to win. Especially with a 3-lap race, which isn't too long. I would have expected a 4 or a 5 lapper around here. in these kind of cars, but it's only a 3 lap, so around about 6 minutes in total. Let's see how it goes. A little bit too deep into the bottom chicane, or sorry, bottom hairpin. I always say chicanes and hairpins the long way around, but yeah, of course that's the hairpin. This is the Schumacher S chicane, although a very fast flowing chicane, and then almost onto the gravel on the outside. I haven't taken that really very well at all. So PPS Gerald going to appear on my right hand side, big up the Philippines, and I'm just going to run him wide. In fact, he could have really backed out a lot earlier. He kind of just drove off, and I resumed first place. So this is what I meant earlier. There's only 8 people in this race, but it's going to be a close one at the front here. You see the top 4 almost nose to tail as we round out towards the final chicane on the circuit. And I'm going to brake way too late, so this is a big disadvantage of having no braking line. I'm going in blind essentially, and then either Bigger's going to come out of nowhere through the centre, threading the needle there into the lead from 3rd to 1st. There's a good little sequence for him, and then Gerald just following through. I'm going to slot in back in 3rd, so obviously a big mistake, big mistake, and I think I could pay the price for that, although we do have 2 laps remaining. And ACR Warp is going to get in the act here around the outside into the first corner. I think I might get this one done, because obviously now we've followed by a left-hander, and I have the left-hand side, and that's really crucial here. Another left-hander, still next to each other, and finally I'm going to slot in ahead. There we go, into 2nd place. So I'm going to set my sights on hitting that barrier. So gone in way too early. So yet another mistake, and I lose another position down into 4th. And wow, yeah, so 2 big errors there. It really cost me. And I think this is kind of a little bit what happens when you're a bit pressured. I didn't really feel the pressure, but I suppose when people are very close to you, it's something else to think about, and it can, just thinking about the position of another driver can just put you off momentarily, and I think it did there. So I just turned in a little bit too early for that turn 4, hit the barrier, or I say a little bit too early, I mean about 10 seconds too early, and then obviously smash into the barrier. But this race isn't over. First place is just pulling away a little bit, but you never know what might happen. And this is good racing. Look how close it is. And I suppose I've never been a massive fan of the homologation. In fact, I think it works in some ways. It doesn't work in some aspects, but it does work in many others. I think things like this, the V8 Supercars, when it just groups everyone together by the same car, that's good. This is a good example of how homologation does work. And yeah, because you can see here, four people, or 5 people, in fact the guy behind me is very close. So 5 people very close in different cars, and it's good close racing. This is what we want to see really. This is the whole point of homologation. So going across the line, this is the final lap now. Can I go about, let's say, trying to get a podium at least? It would have been quite disappointing to start 2nd and go down to 4th, but we can still definitely gain a position. So you can see 5 cars here really close to each other. That's what we want to see. But it is fairly difficult to overtake. This is another aspect, as I really grazed the grass there, turning into a lawnmower temporarily. This is another aspect of having very similar cars, is that it can be quite difficult to overtake sometimes because of that. Sometimes, let's say in an S-Class hopper, you can just go all out on speed and then you can quite easily outspeed someone on the straight and get past them. In this kind of scenario here, we're all in very similar machinery. It can be very difficult to outdo anyone in any aspect because you're all very similar. We're coming down into the hairpin. I'm going to look up the inside, and then we just graze, make contact. And on the exit, I kind of go way too narrow. That is that's kind of another aspect of the V8 Supercars. I said it earlier. They are very temperamental on the accelerator, so you do preferably want to drive out in a straight line from the corners. And I think going on the outside, so wobbles on the outside there, coming out of the hairpin, so you had a straighter and a better opportunity, better line to get on that throttle a little bit earlier. So sometimes being on the outside can help in these kind of cars, because you do really have to drive out in as straight a line as possible. So we've only a couple of corners left to go. I think I have a good chance here. My chances of a podium are evaporating right before my eyes, with now only one corner remaining. But you know what? It was a good race. That's the main thing. I always do look back though and think, could I have won this race if I did it differently, if I drove differently? Sometimes it's impossible. Your car wasn't good enough, or the other drivers were too good. But in this case, I think I could have won that race. Obviously, that mistake on the first lap and the start of the second really cost me. So, gonna have to look at that and think, well, just don't make those stupid mistakes and learn to maybe be a bit more conservative on the brakes if you're unsure. But there we go, guys. I do hope you enjoyed as always. Do let me know your thoughts. And I shall see you in the next one. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and please do subscribe if you'd like to see more of the same. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. I shall see you next time. As always, thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.